stretching video. So you'll notice I have a foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, you can use a large water bottle. So if you have an Nalgene or something like that, you can use that. Just add some water to it. And I also have a lacrosse ball here. We're going to use this today in our glutes. I'm also going to show you a way that you can use it in your upper back to help you if you're having any sort of mobility problems in your shoulders. And then we also have a towel. If you have a big band, you can also use a band. I just don't have one. And the sock is for demonstrating on your back. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the foam roller. We're going to start with the calf. So one thing, the first thing you're going to notice when I'm doing foam rolling is I go very slowly. And the reason being is when you go for a massage, does your massage therapist like roll over you really, really, really fast? No, they don't. They move nice and slow. Usually a deep tissue massage, which is the purpose of foam rolling, is to help to alleviate and loosen up the fascia and to help with the mobility of your muscles. So in order to do that with the foam roller, we also need to go slow. So for your calf, you're just going to place the opposite leg over top, and then we're going to roll slowly from the Achilles. We're going to roll up towards the belly of that calf, and then we're going to come down nice and slow. So I want you to think about 4 counts approximately to do that movement. So you're going to notice that I've propped myself up on my hands. So I am using my core and I am using my triceps and shoulders to hold myself up. So foam rolling isn't just about mobility, we're also using some of our muscles without thinking about it. Okay, so we're going to go one more time. We're going to come up to that muscle belly. And now what I want you to do, and it's not going to feel so hot, is I want you to rotate nice and slow to one side and come back to that center. Yeah, I'm wincing. And back. We're going to do that one more time. Then we're going to drop the butt down. We're going to take a little break. So you will notice, if you've ever looked at foam rollers before, this is a pretty intense foam roller. It's got a pattern on it. Some of them that look like pool noodles are going to be a little bit softer, which means it's going to be less intense. So if you've never done foam rolling before, grab a softer foam roller before going to one that has spikes on it. Okay, so we've done the bottom part. We're just going to do the same thing. We're going to do the upper part. So starting at your top point from before, we're just going to come up to the bottom of the knee. And we're going to pull back nice and slow. So one thing when you're foam rolling is you can change the angle of your leg, and that's just going to hit the muscle ever so slightly. If you happen to notice a spot that's really, really tender, focus on it for maybe 20 seconds at the most. Again, a massage therapist, when they find a trigger point or a knot, they don't stand there for like 20 minutes trying to work it out. They spend a little bit of time and then they try and push it away. So I want you to think about the foam roller the same way. Okay, so normally you would do the other calf. Today I'm going to skip that. You can do your other calf now that you know what to do. Hamstrings, going to be the same position as the calf. I don't usually get anything out of foam rolling through my hamstrings. Some of you who have really tight hamstrings might feel something. Sometimes if I angle out towards my IT band, we'll feel, because that's only because my IT band is tight. And same thing if I come inwards towards the adductor, which are also tight, I'll feel that a little bit more. So just remember, slow and controlled. Think about pushing that body weight into the foam roller. And just go up and down, maybe like 4 or 5 times. Okay, glutes. To start with the foam roller, we're going to place it right underneath our butt. Then we're going to prop ourselves up. So again, you're going to be holding your body weight up with your arms. You are going to lift your legs, and all we're going to do is rotate onto one butt cheek. And from here, I just want you to roll. So same thing, up and down a little bit. Oh, yeah. Nice nice and slow. If that's too much for you, by all means put your feet down. Just know when you put your feet down, you're taking some of that body weight away, which means that there's going to be less pressure on that foam roller, and you might not feel it as much in through those glutes. Okay. So again, you would do the same thing on the other side, back and forth. And then once you've done both sides, all I'm going to get you to do, we're going to work our obliques at the same time, is just get you to rotate side to side just a couple times, roll that ever so slightly, and come back maybe about 3 times each way. Good. So now we're going to move to the quad. I just need to grab a sip of water here. So the quad, obviously we know, I'm going to go sideways here. The front of that leg. So just like the calf, we're going to work it in 2 sections. We're going to do the bottom half, and then we're going to do the top half. Come into a plank position on our elbows with that foam roller down just at the top of our kneecap. Other knee or other leg is just off to the side, and from here it's going to be the same thing. We're going to roll up towards that middle of the quad, nice and slow. 4 counts, and then come back. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the top of that knee, and back again. So that whole time you should be thinking about keeping your foot in a flexed position. It's not going to feel too good, especially if you haven't done this before or if you haven't done it in a long time. Okay, we're going to go one more time. And now we're going to come back down. And then into the middle of that quad. We're going to pin and really stretch that quad. So if you've noticed that you've had some knee pain lately, this could be a reason why. So with that foot flexed, we're going to stretch that quad. And your goal is to bring your heel towards your glutes. Feeling that pin on the quad, really stretching, and then extend down nice and slow. We're going to do that one more time. I am starting to sweat because this feels amazing. And down. Good. If at any point when you're foam rolling, if the pain is too intense, obviously get off or take some of the weight or the pressure off to alleviate that. The goal isn't to not make you feel good, but this is the type of slight pain that when it's done is definitely going to help you with your range of motion and your mobility. Okay, middle of the quad towards the top. So it's the same motion. We're just not going to pin anything this time. Right up towards that hip flexor. And come back down, nice and slow. And again, you can change that angle just a little bit if you want. So just move and rotate your hips. You'll also notice when you move to the other leg that maybe, just maybe, one leg is tighter than the other. That's not unusual, so don't worry about it. Okay, so we're going to move into the hip flexor next and the TFL. These are all in here, and when these are really, really tight, we have issues with our lower back, we have issues with our knees, and probably with our hips as well. So really, really, really important to foam roll these guys. We're also going to go over a stretch for those hip flexors as well. So it's the same thing as your quads, in that plank position on your elbows. We're just up a little bit higher, and generally speaking, I'm going to be angling away from the camera because I want to get towards the outside of my hip here. And we just work in here. So I'm going to might just hit part of your piriformis muscle in your glutes. So one thing you can do is you can foam roll one leg, do all of the different muscles, and then stand up and maybe do a couple squats, walk around and see what difference you feel in each leg, even if you've only spent 5 or 10 minutes doing some foam rolling on one leg. Okay, so our legs are done. We've done our quads, we've done our hamstrings, we've done our glutes, we're not going to do the IT band. Like I said, you can hit it by angling when you're in the quads, and you can hit it when you're angling in the hamstrings. Rolling directly on it, maybe not super effective, but rolling around it to loosen it. It is a tight band, it's a sheath anyway, so chances are you're not really going to loosen it up too much. So next we're just going to foam roll the upper back really quickly. You never want to foam roll your lower back. Usually if you have low back pain, like I said, it's not because your low back is sore, it's because you have other underlying issues like your hamstrings or your glutes. So for your upper back, we're just going to start foam rolling below the shoulder blades and up towards the top. It's pretty simple. So if you want, you can place your fingertips behind your ears, and we're just going to walk slowly towards the top of the shoulder blades. When you get to the top, you can drop your hips slightly and just roll back. And as you walk forward, you can lift your hips up. That's just allowing you to put a little bit more pressure into that foam roller. If you want, you can rotate to one side, and we can just get down along the spine on both sides. A little bit more work for the core. I'll just do the other side really quickly. Awesome. Okay. So foam rolling for today is done. I'm going to show you some hamstring and glute stretches using the towel or a band. And then we'll do the hip flexor stretch, and then I'll show you some stuff with the lacrosse ball. You can also use a tennis ball. Tennis ball will be less intense than a lacrosse ball, and I just don't have one available right now. They're in my garage. Okay. Hamstring. You are going to wrap the towel around the ball of your foot. You're going to lie directly on your back, and we're just going to pull. As you keep that foot flexed, we're going to pull onto that towel with that leg straight up in the air. You can rest your other arm out to the side. The goal is to keep your shoulders intact with the ground at all times. Now, if you want to deepen the hamstring stretch, you're going to lift your opposite leg up, and you are going to slowly lower it towards the ground. I'll just do that one more time. Good. So now with that towel, you're going to stay in the same position. You're just going to switch arms, and you're going to slowly drop that leg out. Or if you're me, you're going to hold with both so you don't lose the towel. And now we're just stretching that adductor or that inner thigh. So allow that leg. What I want you to keep doing is keep pulling on that flex. So keep pulling on the ball of that foot. And obviously there should just be slight tension and no pain while doing these stretches. Okay. So now we're going to come up and over. And we're going to do the same thing. Keep that foot flexed. Keep pulling on that towel. And depending on how tight your glutes are, right now I feel that. Also going to feel it down through that IT band. Just keep pulling and allow that leg to fall without letting the shoulders come up off the ground. And just hold, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds if you want. Sometimes I like to just move my leg around a little bit, especially through those hips. Okay. Excellent. Lose the towel. Hip flexors. So we know these guys up here, so a lot of sitting is going to shorten the hip flexors. And when those hip flexors become shortened, our posture, like I said the other day when you were doing the lunges, to keep your chest up, and if you are bending there, chances are these guys are tight. Really important to stretch them. Like I said, when those hip flexors get shortened, we start to curl over, which then puts a lot of pressure onto the lower back, and that's where we get some of our pain from if we have low back pain. One knee forward, other on the ground, almost like a deep lunge. And then you're just going to squeeze your glutes and you're going to push your hip forward. And that might be enough for you today. You can bring that arm up and just deepen that stretch. If you want more, make sure you're not directly on the kneecap. For my balance, you're going to grab your foot. So you should be on the the bottom part of your quad. And we are here, and we are up tall, and we feel that. And you can actually move that foot around a little bit, and that's just going to change the angle slightly and deepen that stretch through the hip flexor. Okay, so you would do the other side, obviously. Just a couple of more things. If you have really tight glutes, are you noticing that you're having low back pain? Lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. You're going to lie down on it. We're going to place it into our glutes. So what you don't want is to ever place it on any of your bones. We want it in the meaty part of the muscle. We're going to lie flat on our back. And all I'm going to get you to do is just roll around. And you're going to come probably at some point you're going to hit a spot. That's like a trigger point if you've ever had a massage or if you've not had a massage. A place where there's discomfort. When you find that and when you have that, what we want to do is we want to try and work that out. So we are going to slowly drag our heel on the ground towards those glutes as far as you can. And then just like we did with the quad, we're going to hold that trigger point or that nod and we're going to try and stretch through it. So then you're just going to drop that knee out down towards the ground and rotate in and extend out. And then you're just going to do the same thing, kind of roll around. Again, if you get out farther towards the outside, we're going to hit into that piriformis, tight piriformis, tons of issues with hips and knees. It's the same thing, slowly drag and drop and back up. So I know that when it's uncomfortable, we want to move really, really fast. Really try not to. Just take some deep breaths into it. So think of nice deep inhales and exhales and just kind of move around. And you can continue to do that in your glutes. Anywhere between 5-7 minutes, something like that. One side and then the other side. So I have this sock here because what I found when I'm using the lacrosse ball on my back in my shoulder blades is it has a tendency to want to fall, and then they're bouncy and they roll. So if you put it in a sock and you throw it over your shoulder, it's a lot easier to move it up and down without the ball rolling around. Okay, so I'm working with small wall space here. Ball in the sock, we're just going to bring it up. So I want you to think about rolling around just like you did with your glutes, rolling around that shoulder blade area, maybe the bottom of your traps, the bottom of your neck, and just kind of roll around. And then that same thing, if you find that spot that you're like, ooh, yeah, that's tender. Now what we want to do is we want to work that arm in different ranges of of motion and try and loosen up that trigger point. So you can push with as much weight as you want into that wall, rolling around, and you're just going to continue to do that same thing. We can come out closer to the shoulder. So you've probably seen people doing this at the gym and rolling up and down. There's a reason why, especially right now when we can't go for massages, why you might want to be doing this. And then the other thing you can do is you can hit into the chest and do the same thing, just going the opposite way. And if you find that spot, you can still work that arm up and down. So I would say spend maybe 20 to 30 minutes a couple times a week doing some foam rolling, doing some stretching. It's going to help with your mobility, which means your range of motion is going to be better, which means you're going to feel better when you're doing things like squats and deadlifts. If you have questions, let me know. And other than that, we'll see you at the next workout.